I saw an online coach the other day that posted a reel that got 47,000 views, and he told me he got zero clients from it. 47,000 people showed up and watched him teach, and he got not a single buyer. Meanwhile, my client, who's an online health coach, she has an Instagram page, about 2,000 followers or so on it. She posted a simple text post with a caption, got 3 DMs that day, and signed up 2 clients. You see, the difference is subtle, but it's incredibly important to pay attention to in this day and age that we're in. The dude that got all of the views and no clients, he was teaching. My client, she was shifting beliefs. And this makes all of the difference. It's no secret, right, that we're living in this very AI information overloaded world to where it's incredibly easy for us as creators, as coaches, to create content, and it's equally as easy for people to find information to things. And so it's not just about now teaching and providing education, like information itself is commoditized. But what AI can't easily replicate and what we can only do is to provide our own unique perspectives, to provide our own experiences, to be able to influence and shift people's beliefs. And when we can do that effectively and plug it into an effective system, it'll allow you, just like my client, to get people reaching out to you in the DMs, to get more people that are already pre-sold because your marketing has done the heavy lifting and it's gotten people in. And so I'm going to walk you through a three-phase system today that I've used personally and that I've helped a lot of clients use to be able to fill up their calendars, to fill up their coaching programs with more pre-sold buyers. In fact, I just did a full-length workshop on this, masterclass, if you will, and I'm going to be sharing bits and pieces of that masterclass. So if you want to see the full-length masterclass for free, you can click the link in the description. It's about a 90-minute masterclass where I go into extreme detail into everything that we're going to walk through here today. But in today's video, I'm going to give you the high-level nuts and bolts that you can go out and immediately execute into this world. And for context, if you're new to this channel, my name is Jason Meland, and over the last about 14 years, I have had the fortunate pleasure and opportunity to serve thousands and thousands of clients, from building a brick and mortar gym in South Florida to building an online fitness coaching company to building now over the last 5 years, a business and marketing consulting company where I've been able to serve thousands and thousands of clients. And over time, between my own experiences and having amazing mentors and just being in the trenches, I've learned a thing or two about what it takes to get clients without needing to chase people and really allowing your marketing to do the heavy lifting. And that's what I intend to show you here today. So let's dive in, shall we? And so again, this is bits and pieces of a workshop that I just hosted. The link in the description if you want to see the full length masterclass. And so the first part of this, I want you to really look and diagnose your current content. And so your best content is likely selecting for the wrong buyers, just like this online fitness coach that got 47,000 views, but not a single buyer. He was getting the attention, but pay attention to this. Attention is not the currency that we're currently in right now. We're in getting the right attention. It's more of the wisdom economy. And so he was getting the wrong buyers. He was getting people that were just liking his stuff, which was stroking his ego, but nobody that was actually, quote unquote, stroking his bank account. And so is your best content selecting the wrong buyer? Here are some of the symptoms that I'll commonly experience when doing audits for people. You might have engagement that looks fine, but your sales are unpredictable. You might be getting leads from ads or from organic means, but a lot of them are price shoppers, tire kickers, or they're just quote unquote curious. Your sales calls feel like they're starting from zero on every objection, right? It's like people aren't pre-sold. There's constantly all these objections. You then go and tweak hooks, you tweak formats, you tweak posting times, you're trying different funnels, but nothing's truly like giving you what you are looking for in terms of consistent flow and predictable flow of clients. And so the diagnosis is your content is doing exactly what you trained it to do. And mind you, this is not solely your fault. This is just the way things were up until like AI became as big as it is now. And what you're doing is you're attracting people who want free education, but you're not attracting buyers, or at least you're not influencing people in the effective way, which I'm going to show you how to do here in the next handful of minutes. And so the problem is that your content is selecting the wrong buyers. Okay. And so, posting more, tweaking your hook, running more ads, none of those like moves change what your content is selecting for. They just amplify the same problem. You just get more people who are non-buyers. So the first move isn't changing your content or anything like that. It's changing how you're communicating. And so educator content is like, how do I help this person understand? This might build trust, right? So we definitely want some of this stuff in here, like some what I call authority content. It's going to definitely win followers for sure and win likes, but it results in you getting learners, freebie seekers. Versus influence content asks, how do I help this person decide? This is going to build new belief in people, and this ultimately wins clients, and it results in having more buyers. In fact, I just implemented this in a 7-figure company that I am working behind the scenes as a consultant in, and they had already an audience of about, or I should say they had a CRM of about 4,000 people in a Go High level account. They have a Facebook group that has a couple thousand people in it. And just by putting in more influence type content, they were able to go from 50K to 230K in revenue, right? They crossed over that 7-figure mark just from putting in more influence content. So it makes a big difference, especially if you already have an audience of people, even if it's, again, 2,000. So an example of this, Educator is like, hey, here's 5 mistakes most mom makes with macros, and here's how to fix them. And then you go into like mistake number 1, mistake number 2, right? It's very information driven. Influence is like, hey, if you're still tracking macros to feel in control of your body, the issue isn't just your nutrition, it's your relationship with control. Here's what I mean. So you're dropping in a whole new belief, a whole new perspective on them. And this is what people are seeking. The first builds learners, the second builds a moment of resonance. Does this make sense? And resonance is everything when it comes to attracting the right people, especially nowadays. Like the way, at least to my understanding, the way Meta's algorithm, the way all the algorithms essentially work is they are reading your copy, they're looking at your creative, and they are selecting which content to put in front of the right people based on these people's behaviors. And so if you want to optimize, whether it's organic content or whether it's ads that you're running, if you want to optimize for buyers, you need to make sure that you're putting the right types of copy and you're speaking the right language within your stuff to attract more buyers. Does that make sense? Because Meta can see who's clicking on links, who's looking at stuff. They can look at all of that. And so they know how to optimize this stuff. Secondly, I want you to pay close attention to this before we move on to like how to shift beliefs into the whole system. Is there are, and dare I say, maybe this goes a little bit woo-woo, I don't know, but there's what's called a posture. Okay. And so this is a deeper layer that at least in my experience, has been one of the things that I feel like has helped me get a lot more pre-sold people into my coaching program, mentorship program. But an auditioner is trying to convince people. They're trying to prove they're worth hiring. Their prospects can feel that, right? The prospects hold the authority, and their prospects take their time, and they get a lot of questions, or they'll ghost you. The result is it's a needier energy from you. You'll have a slower sales cycle, and you're going to get the wrong fit clients coming in. It has almost like a desperation energy. Even if you're not like intentionally trying to make it come out like that, it's like you need the clients more than they need you kind of thing. You get what I'm saying? Versus the selector seat, this is where you stop trying to earn the sale. You start filtering for the right client, and authority stays with you. You have the authority. You are in demand. And prospects can feel that. They will self-qualify before the sales call ever happens. The result is you have more demand, you're getting the right fit clients, and you're getting more people that are pre-sold. In fact, I had a client that just signed up with me, and she said, hey, like, one of the things I just want to say to you and is that, like, I didn't feel like you were trying to sell me. All the other companies I talked to, it's like they were trying to provide me fast action discounts, and like if I didn't buy today, they were going to raise the price, and like all of these weird kind of gross tactics. And I was just like leaned out like, hey, if you want to work with me, cool, I can help you for sure, but blah blah blah. And she was like, I really like that helped make me want to work with you. And so take that for what it's worth. But you can either be the auditioner, chasing people, or the selector. And all this goes into getting more pre-sold clients. If you're chasing and you got desperate energy and you go through some of these tactics I'm going to walk you through right now, I still don't think it's going to work for you. So you really want to pay attention to how you're showing up in your content, on your sales calls, in your workshops, and so forth. So the next piece here is this 3-phase system. And this 3-phase system is about positioning yourself correctly, pre-selling people, okay, with your words through belief shifting, and then amplifying that by leveraging AI and having the right content cadence. These 3 phases you have to do in order. Each one's going to depend on the one before it, as you're going to see. If you skip a phase or you run these out of order, the whole engine kind of sputters out. And so the first phase is going to be how you position yourself. This is what's going to make prospects pre-select you before they ever read a post. This also helps you when you have the right types of copywriting around your positioning. It helps the platforms know who to push your content out to. Okay. And for context with all of this, I'm very well positioned. And so I don't get tons of views. I don't get tons of I don't have millions of followers, yet I've made millions of dollars online. And so to give you a little bit of context here, you don't need to be chasing vanity. You just want the right people to hear what you've got to say. And then phase 2 is pre-selling. This is what makes your content do the convincing before the call. And then phase 3 is the amplify. This is how AI scales your voice without diluting it, and even the cadence which you should distribute your content, which we're going to go through. So the positioning, I say change your position, change the prospect. I once heard a TED talk from a guy named Myron Golden, who's pretty big in the kind of the coaching consulting space. And he was talking about changing the frame is one of the most powerful ways to influence yourself and to influence others. And that's kind of what I mean here. When you change the frame, so imagine you have a picture frame and you change the entire frame, you're going to start to view the picture differently. And the same thing is true in your prospect's mind. If you change the frame of your brand and how you want to be perceived, it's going to change the way the prospect views your brand, and it's going to change the types of prospects that you're bringing in. So if you're bringing in a lot of tire kickers right now, understand that it's because the way you're positioned, right? So everything is upstream. In fact, one of my clients, I love Treyanka's story. And Treyanka, if you're watching this, shout out to you. She's such an amazing human. And one of the things that at least I observed in her, and I believe she would concur to this, is that she was a transformation coach. She had this incredible positioning around when people would get done with her program, they basically the North Star, they were going to do a photo shoot. And so all these women had this, this accountability to get ready for this photo shoot. And she changed her positioning and she became and maybe she would argue this, but she's super humble. But statistically speaking, I believe she's the number 1 female transformation coach in all of the Netherlands. Truly, in her whole country. Maybe she argues this because she's humble, but I'm just looking at statistically speaking. And this really amplified things for her. But first, understand this. This is where most people are positioned. And I want you to take a moment here to just look at your current content, think through your current marketing. And I'm going to kind of walk through what's called the 5 levels of market sophistication. And I'm going to show you how you need to better position yourself. So there's this concept by the late Eugene Schwartz, famous marketer. And he coined this term, the levels of market sophistication. And so what the levels of market sophistication are is level 1, and we're going to use online coaching as an example. So level 1 was back in 2010 when online training was available for the first time ever. It was this novel, unique concept where it's online training, what? You can get fit with online training? What is this? Right? And that quickly becomes commoditized really fast because all these brands start pushing stuff out into the marketplace. Then there's level 2, and that's where you're having a claim-based message. So this would be hey, lose 20 pounds in 90 days. What? I can lose 20 pounds in 90 days with online training? Oh my God, right? So now that becomes commoditized after a while. Level 3 is where most people are today, and that's what's called mechanism messaging. And this is where you might say, hey, our 3-phase metabolism reset helps your body burn fat again without extreme diets. So you start adding mechanisms to it. And see, most people are still living in like a level 2 or level 3 kind of positioning where they're like trying to position themselves solely around a mechanism. When, from my experience, we want to be in what's called level 4. So, or level 5 is ultimately what we want to be in. Level 4 is more precision. So, this is where we start to get more precise. So, it could be like, hey, our 12-week, process helps busy moms lose 15 to 25 pounds, fit into their favorite clothes, and keep it off without giving up family meals or spending hours in the gym. So you're getting more precise. You're essentially carving yourself more of a sub niche versus like trying to target a too broad of a niche. Does that make sense? So the language you start using gets way more specific. And some people might even be in there, but where we really want to get to is what I call iconic messaging. This is how you truly position yourself, in my experience, in my opinion, in today's marketplace, to get more pre-sold people. And this is where you are building a message and you're selling them into a new identity, a new belief system, into a new future. So this might be like, hey, become the healthiest, most confident version of yourself and lead your family by example, right? So you're bringing people into an aspirational identity. You're bringing people into a new belief system and you're painting more of a picture. So your brand positioning becomes much different than what most people are doing. And so you're going to attract people that aren't just like, hey, I just want to lose 20 pounds and man, any challenge or diet will do. You're just like, you're bringing people that are in this crap for the long haul. They're like, they want to be that identity. And so when you can position yourself around that and you get out of the, mechanism only or outcome only claims or niche only claims, right? If you're still saying things like, I help busy moms lose 20 pounds, I help busy professionals, it's like you're talking to this, like, it's a pretty big freaking niche. You know what I mean? It's like we really want to be way more. You need to carve your own sub niche around an identity, around belief system. I'll just call it like it is. That's what's worked well. And so here's a simple pre-sell positioning formula. This will help you get closer to level 5. And so for full transparency, there's not just one formula. Okay, when I work with a client on this, there's a whole bunch of ways we can go about doing this. But for the sake of just trying to help you implement this stuff and at least start taking some action, here's a formula. So you could say, hey, I help specific prospect and a specific identity go from current frustrating state to desired outcome without the thing they're tired of or the thing they hate, so they could finally get to deeper identity level result. So this might be me saying, hey, I help established online coaches go from inconsistent revenue months, getting just wildly unpredictable and inconsistent results when it comes to booking calls and getting dream clients, to being able to get on average of 8 to 16 pre-sold dream clients every single month in their coaching program without having to run a bunch of paid ads and burn their money on messaging that's not actually converting. Try to go viral or build a big following, do cold DMs or any of that sleazy outreach stuff, so they could finally become the sought after, respected, in-demand coach that they know they should be. You see? So it's a whole new level of positioning around my message. So this is something that I want you to try. Okay? And if you're interested, I'll leave the link in the description. I do what's called magic messaging makeover sessions. They're one-off sessions to where you and I will get onto a Zoom call. I'll walk you through a full messaging and positioning process. It gets pretty deep into the psychology of your ideal clients, but it's been pretty effective for the people that I've helped. So if you want a one-off session with me, I'll leave the link in the description. You can check that out. This is another example. I help moms lose 20 pounds with personalized macro and strength training using my metabolic revive method. Boring. That doesn't work anymore. After is like, I help mothers in their first 2 years of postpartum going from feeling like a stranger in their body to strong, lean, and at home in themselves again without restrictive dieting, so they could stop waiting to feel like themselves and start being themselves again. Right? Whole new layer of messaging. And then ultimately, like, what this all leads to is like, you need to have 4 sales in your content that will do the selling for you. You need to sell an aspirational identity, which is what level 5 positioning is all about. You need to sell a new belief system, which we're going to jump into here in just a second. You do need to sell a unique solution. So you want to have a unique way that you help people, right? Like I have a magic messaging makeover. My fitness program used to have the stubborn fat solution. You want a unique way to do it. And then you want to sell social proof through storytelling. If you make these 4 sales in your marketing, you are going to find yourself having a lot more people reaching out to in your DMs. So there is an identity gap. So just make sure you're clear on like who your dream client is. Like what is their current reality right now? And then what's their aspirational identity? Like what would if you had to like if you literally were following them around with a video camera, you knew their thoughts, everything that was going on, like what would they call themselves? Right? The unfit parent, the superhero parent, right? Is aspirational. And just the more details you know about like the results they're getting that they hate, what they vent about to their friends, what they keep trying that isn't working, how they feel when no one's watching, how they secretly describe themselves right now, what they say to themselves like in private. And then on the opposing side, what is the aspirational identity they want? What are the desired results they want? What do they brag about to friends? What's your new method of helping them? How do they feel when they wake up every morning? How do others describe them now? What do they say themselves? Okay, the more you can get clear on this, the better your marketing's gonna become because you'll know how to use their language to stretch the gap between where they're stuck and where they want to be. Does that make sense? And so, as we go into the pre-sale phase here, just understand this. So now you should have at least a better understanding of how to position yourself. It might take some work, and you could drop in the comments what you came up with, and I'll give you some feedback. But once you have what we call a level 5 positioning, you have a deep understanding of who your dream client is, what their aspirational identity is. Now we need to start to shift people's beliefs. This is where we sell people into an identity system, then into a belief system. Okay. So understand that content doesn't sell. Content's job is to move prospects through beliefs. The misconception that most people have is that like they're trying to quote unquote sell through their content. And so I did a full workshop on what I call the 8 core beliefs needed to fill your calendar with pre-sold buyers. And so I have it inside of my school community. If you want to just, check out the details on it, link will also be in the description. Feel free to do that. But every prospect has to at least cross these 5. There's 8 total, but definitely these 5 in your marketing. In most content might just touch the first one, but they very rarely get to the bottom ones. This is why most people might get a lot of likes. They might even get some leads, but they're not getting consistent flow of buyers. So the first belief that we need to shift in our marketing is that I have a problem that you're describing, and it's worse than I admit it to myself. The second is the possibility. Like solving this is actually possible for somebody like me. They need to believe that. And third is the path, that your specific approach is the right path for me. They need to believe that. Person, you're the right person to guide me through it. There's a bajillion coaches now. Why are you the right person for them? We need to shift their belief. Priority, now is the time, not later. They need to believe that they need to take action now. You see, most people are going to get these objections on sales calls, and it's way too late. Now you're spending 60 minutes on a sales call. You're having to do 2-3 call closes when you can get pre-sold people if you shift these beliefs in your marketing. Does that make sense? Really, really important here. So how you shift these beliefs, again, I go into detail in the 8 core beliefs workshop on like how to actually go about shifting people's beliefs through storytelling, metaphors, analogies, how to like all that stuff is in there. So feel free to check out the full masterclass. But to give you like kind of like short in detail, like what you need to know is for a problem, you need to call out the unspoken pattern, right? Name what they were hoping nobody would notice. What's the post I think, how did this person know? Like we need to be able to speak to that specific problem. The possibility, the more you can use like true case studies, storytelling of yourself and of clients, just being able to demonstrate proof, not just showing before and afters or Stripe screenshots. That's kind of lame, but being able to like actually tell emotionally driven stories about clients or yourself that have achieved the result. That's going to help shift this belief for sure. The path is like why your method beats the obvious alternatives. So this is about your stance, about what doesn't work and why. So the best way I could describe this, So Russell Brunson talks about this in one of his books called, I can't remember which one, maybe Expert Secrets. He calls it the Epiphany Bridge story. And so that's how I kind of do it is like, you know, for example, when I was selling fitness and I was selling my stubborn fast solution, that was kind of my path. And it was all about like eating flexibly. I did tell people to track their calories, strength training, all that stuff. I basically just kind of told my story about how like I was overweight, 53 pounds overweight, and how I tried like everything under the sun. And then I kind of finally figured it out. I started eating this island diet and I started to do lots of strength training, 4 or 5 days a week. And then like, 3 months later, I had like 6-pack abs. I had dropped all this weight. And I told my story about how I discovered my path. Okay. So it's a very effective way to sell people in to get them pre-sold on your way of doing things. And then obviously telling client stories as well. Person is going to definitely be your story, your standards, the lines you draw, and then priority is like the cost of them waiting. I have a very infamous story I've shared in my marketing lots of times, but back when I was in fitness again, I'll use that as an example. I had a client that like she kept reaching out to me over the course of about 3 years, but she never hired me. Like I think she did once, but she ghosted afterwards. And every time she would reach back out, it was like probably about 6 to 8 months gap. She would tell me her doctor like gave her another bad news. Like she had diabetes now. She was like 8 months later, she was on heart medicine and she just never signed up. She was just kept getting in her own way. And I'm pretty sure she died because she disappeared off of like the face of the internet. And I'm pretty sure she died. And I told that story multiple times in my marketing and it really like hit with people. And so people that were like constantly waiting, it got them to take action. So much so that I used that as a core pillar whenever somebody would like DM me, it would be part of like my process of getting people bought in. And when you can do this, you can knock over all these dominoes. You're going to get way more people bought in to your stuff. Okay. And here's a framework that you can use. Again, if you want to get the full masterclass on this, links in the description. You can have this worksheet for free to kind of help you. The way I like to do this in content is typically like for every 10 pieces of belief shifting content, I'll typically do 2 around the problem belief, 2 around the possibility belief, 2 around like my path belief, 2 around the person telling my story or my standards or kind of my stance into something. And then I'll do 2 around the priority, like the cost of waiting, urgency to act, something along those lines. Okay. This is not perfect, but like I try my best to just make sure I'm diverse and that I'm constantly, infusing these pieces of content. And oftentimes I'll do these ones in particular as reels. And they kind of act as like my mini salespeople, just kind of being out there shifting beliefs for me in my marketing. And if you have effective ones, you can even run these as ads and they work really well too. Yeah, here's a whole template. Again, you can have this for free if you click the link in the description. But it's just a template that you can use to like start creating. This is like a good template for creating a reel that you can have. And I give you an example of like one of my clients who does like macro coaching. Cool. The last piece here is about amplifying. Okay. So what we've covered so far, if you're paying attention at home, is how to better position yourself. So that way you start selecting the right clients, moving from maybe level 2, level 3 positioning to level 5, which is all about selling an identity system. And then from there, we go into shifting beliefs. We need to start to pre-sell. And so in order to pre-sell, we have the 5 core beliefs that if you just focus on infusing into your everyday content, you're going to get a lot more people that will be pre-sold. I'm telling you, if you just try to like run this, at least if you're doing this effectively, the words matter. If you're doing this effectively, you're going to notice a change in the amount of people DMing you from your content here in the next handful of weeks, for sure. At least that's what happens commonly with most of my clients. So once we're selling an identity system, we're selling a belief system. The next thing we want to do is to actually like have a cadence to amplify and to distribute our content. So I use AI. Now I don't use AI as a content generator. I use it as a voice amplifier. You see, most coaches, most people, most business owners, they're using AI to generate content. They might open ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Grok or something, and they're going to be like, write me a post about a certain topic. And then they basically like might massage it a little bit and they paste the output. And that's why their AI content sounds like AI content. It's generic, it's indistinguishable. It sounds like, 50,000 other coaches who did the exact same thing. There's nothing that really separates it. And so before, when AI first became a thing, that was probably cool to do. But nowadays, it's like, it's just a commoditized, right? And so the three layers I look at AI is like, you want to have it trained with a context document. And man, I could do a whole master. I literally have done a whole workshop on this stuff, but basically it just needs to know like your avatar. It needs to know it has to have a voice library of like your best content and all that stuff. It needs to know your positioning, your stances, your transformations, and how you write sentences. And again, I actually have some example prompts that you can use for this. Again, if you want this worksheet, just click the link in the description and you can get the access to all the prompts that I have in here as well. Then layer 2 is we want to make sure that we have all the beliefs that we want to infuse in our marketing, not just around content topics, but we want to have it, we want to teach it how to map out beliefs. Again, I have a prompt down below that you could just copy and paste into Claude, and it works pretty well. The third is the editorial pass. This is where your hands go. So, this is where you want to make sure that like it sounds like you when you're using AI. Okay, you don't want to just put it out verbatim. But here's how I go about doing it. This is just my style. I call it the one-to-many cadence. So basically, how I start with all of my content is like I'm not doing 10 pieces of content a week. That's a lot. I'm making like usually 1 or 2 pieces of content, and AI handles the descent. So for example, the hierarchy of my content distribution, really creation, is I'm going to do 1 monthly workshop or live masterclass every month. I just did it. And this is where this YouTube video right now is stemming from. So this is a long form piece of content. For me, it's about 90 minutes. It's stacked with all the beliefs that I want people to believe. And it's built for my dream client. Nobody else. This is where my best thinking, your best stories, your best arguments live, is in this one workshop. It acts as like a core piece of conversion content. And then secondly, I do a weekly YouTube video like I'm doing right now. It doubles as a very searchable, SEO anchored on a core topic within my brand messaging. This is where prospects find you. They can keep finding you. And for me, for the longest time, it doubles as like I'm just now like really focusing on growing my YouTube. But for the first couple of years, I just used it as a middle of funnel to nurture my existing leads that were coming in off Facebook and Instagram and my email list, right? I was sending it to my email list. So that's how it works, right? So if you think about it like this, you have like a piece of core conversion content every week and then every month, and then you just kind of splice it out to short form text, long form text, short form videos, long form videos. And what this does, so Google they did a study a while back. They call it the 7-11-4 rule, where buyers need to consume roughly 7 hours of content from you on 11 different touch points, 4 different mediums. And so this helps you go from like disconnected reels to where you might have to have somebody watch like freaking, I don't know, 75 reels from you before they get to that 7 hours. Where if you do a monthly workshop, like again, one of my clients, we implemented this with, and they went from around 20-ish $1,000. It was up and down. They were doing like 12K, 20K, 30K, back down. It was all over the place. We just implemented this rhythm with the monthly masterclasses and then weekly YouTube videos. And then they would promote it to their email list and all that stuff. And they went up now to, I think he's at like 50-ish $1,000 per month just from doing this one thing. So it's like just getting more people that are in your network to consume your content is going to be massively helpful. Okay. And then how I do this, like I call it the descent flow. This is where one piece becomes many. So like if you look at like the workshop, which happens monthly, or even this YouTube video, what I do is I take the transcript, and this allows me to create short form videos like reels and shorts. Basically what I do is I either go into Descript is the software I use, and I'll just kind of edit it out. Or if you go check out my Instagram now, what I often do is like I'll take the transcript and I have an AI prompt where I ask it to help me find like the best things that I said in that video, and I'll just re-record it as like a short reel. But either way, I'm not having to think anymore. I have one core idea and I'm just recutting or re-recording. This will help me because I'm using my transcript. I have a prompt as well that I will put into Claude, and it'll give me captions and threads and stuff like that on my strongest language that I already said. This will help me come up with my emails. I just put the transcript in and I have an email prompt and it comes up and it's verbatim me because it's just pulling from my transcript. So when done right, this allows you to pull the right content at the right stage of your funnel. So now I could like literally take content from this video and I can create reels from it. I can create captions from it. I can create Facebook posts. I can create emails, and it verbatim sounds like me. And again, I do have a prompt, to be fair, where I don't have it put M dashes. I don't have it put the stupid like it's not it's not content, it's not leads, it's not this, it's this. Like that sounds so stupid. It's like so AI. I have like prompts to teach it not to do it. And then, my kind of stack with AI. So I use Victor, which is an AI agent. I'll put the link down below if you want to check it out. I'm not affiliated with it in any way, like in terms of like I have no stakes in their company, but I use it for myself. And I've installed a full 8-figure skill stack in there. I use Claude for a lot of like my just common writing. So Victor is like high level AI agent stuff. It basically acts as like a human for me. Claude just helps me take my transcripts. Descript is what I use to like cut out fluff, and I can chop up reels and stuff in there. So that's the cadence in which I do everything. And so if we look at this full picture now, the first major thing is audit your own content right now. Look at where you might be posting content that's going for vanity, going for views, but you're selecting the wrong buyer. And how can you now, number one, better position yourself? How can you go from maybe level 2, like I help avatar lose or whatever your promise is, blah, 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 or even mechanism based. My unique mechanism helps you get XYZ result. How can you move up to level 5 to where we're selling an identity system? That's number one. Number two, how can we start to sell a belief system? What are the current beliefs that your dream client thinks of, right? What is in their brain? What is in their mind? And what are your beliefs that they need to believe in each of those categories? From the problem to the possibility to the path to the priority to you as the person. What's the contrast? And then start to infuse that. And the easiest way to do it is to start telling stories. Your story, client stories, using metaphors, analogies to help bridge the gap between old belief and new belief. And then that will start to pre-sell people, and just having a cadence to where you're making sure that you're infusing that into your YouTube videos, into your monthly masterclasses or workshops, taking those and then making sure that you are repurposing that stuff out into your world is going to help you amplify that. And if you do this right and you stick to this cadence, at least from my experience, you're going to get a lot more people of the right people in your DMs, pre-sold, ready to work with you. So I hope you found this video helpful. Make sure to click subscribe if you did. Stick around for more. Let me know in the comments, like, what was your biggest takeaway? What was the aha moment for you? And I would love to know like what your biggest questions are. Like put them down below as well. I'm happy to jump in there and answer them for you. But at the end of the day, remember this. Teaching creates buyers. It's super commoditized. We have to rig our system. We have to rig the game to influence, to shift people's beliefs. And hopefully today's system showed you how to do that and how to amplify it out to the world. Remember, your message matters. Don't be afraid to speak it. Be seen, be heard, and be impactful.